Hey everybody, Mr. V here. This is going to be the guided review for the Chapter 3 test. First ones are just finding the slope. So we know that slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So then all we're doing is plugging those in. So I'd have 7 minus 3 over 4 minus a negative 2. So 7 minus 3 is 4. 4 minus a negative, so that means these would turn into plus signs, it would be 6. And then make sure, if you can, simplify and reduce. So a number that goes into both of these would be 2. So 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 goes into 6 3 times. So your final answer should be 2/3. If we did the same thing with number 2, that'd be -1 minus -8 over 6 minus 4. These would turn into positive signs. So it'd be -1 plus 8, so that'd be 7. And then 6 minus 4 is 2. Can't reduce that or simplify that, so 7 over 2. Number 3, 5 minus a -1 over -1 minus a -3. Watch your negatives here. So these would turn into positives on the top, so that would give it 6. And then -1 minus a -3, so that'd be adding 3, would be 2. And then you can reduce that. 6 divided by 2 is 3. All right, so for questions 5 through 7, write an equation in point-slope form. That's the key right there, point-slope form. We know that point-slope form is y plus or minus blank is equal to m, which is our slope, x plus or minus blank. Okay, so all we got to do for number 5, it passes through 8 and a -3 and has a slope of 4. So what that's telling us is that this is our x, this is our y, and this is our m. So if I plug these in here, first thing I got to do is I need to solve for this equation by literally just plugging things in. So like to begin it off, all we're doing is plugging things in. So if I were going to do number 5, it'd be y, and then the plus or minus just means whatever is the opposite of up here. So that's a -3, and I want the opposite, so I'm going to do plus 3 is equal to, I know my slope is 4 right there, and then it's going to be x, and then I look at my x, I see my x is a +8, so I'm going to put a -8 on the inside. And that's all you're doing, is you're just plugging stuff in, making sure that because it's in point-slope form, it's going to be the opposite. So let's do the same thing for number 6. Now, number 6, a little bit different. You just have 2 points. But when you have 2 points, you can always find the slope with the slope equation like we did just before. So that would be -7 minus 4 over 6 minus a -2. So it'd be -11 over plus 8. -11 over 8. So my slope is going to be -11 over 8. So now I can pick either one of these. So I'm just going to pick this one right here. And this has my x, and this has my y. And I'm just going to plug it in, keeping in mind that because it's in point-slope form, the x and the y are going to be the opposites. So this will be y, that's a positive 4, so I'm going to do y minus 4 is equal to negative 11 over 8, that's my slope, times x, and then since that's a negative 2, I flip it to be a positive 2. And there's your equation. So that's your final answer for that one. That's your final answer for this one. All right, 7. So 7's a little bit different because not only do I have 2 points, but I don't even have the coordinates. So this one would be negative 2. This one right here would be negative 2, positive 2. And this one would be 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3, 4. Now I could also find this by just finding the slope between these two lines right here. And now it's rise over run. So I would do plus 1 plus 2. So that's a positive 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A positive 5. So I could do it either way. If I wanted to, I could put this whole thing right here into the equation of finding slope, and I would get 2 or 5. Or you can, like I just did here, count and find your slope that way. So knowing that my slope is 2 over 5, and I have these 2 points, again, I'm just going to pick one of them. So I'm going to pick this first one. That gives me an x, that gives me a y, and I just plug it into the point slope formula. So I would have y opposite of 2 is negative 2, and then equal to my slope, which is 2/5, and I'm going to multiply that times x, and then the opposite of negative 2 is a positive 2, and then you're all set. So just remember, on number 6, if you have 2 points, you can find the slope, and then you just pick one of the points. And in number 7, you have the 2 points already, so you could, if you wanted to, just take those 2 points, put it in the slope formula to find your slope, or you could also just count on the graph. All right, for 8 through 11, write an equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Okay, so when it says 8, slope is negative 2 and y-intercept is 5, since you have the slope and you have the y-intercept, that's all you're looking for. You're only looking for the m and the b. So my slope is negative 2, my y-intercept is 5. So I can write this equation out as y equals negative 2x plus 5. And that's all. So I'll keep this here. All right, so this one passes through this point and has a slope of 3/4. So it tells me that my slope is 3/4, but it does not tell me what my b is. So what we have to do here is, using this point right here, we have an x and we have a y. I'm just going to put that into the y equals mx plus b equation, and that's going to give me b. So I have my x, my y, and my m right here. So it's going to be 1 is equal to 3/4 times negative 4 plus b. Okay, so this would be my y, this is my m, this is my x, and then there's my b right there. So all I did was just plug these in here, and I'll be able to then solve for b. If I do that, I'm going to get 1 is equal to 3/4 times a negative 4 would be a negative 1 plus b. I'm going to add 1 to each side, so b is going to be equal to 2. Okay, so then what I can do, since I found out what b equals 2, and I'm going to take that and just plug it in. So y is equal to 3/4 x plus 2. We're going to do the same things for 10 and 11. Remember, it gives me 2 points. If I have 2 points, I can find the slope. So 8 minus -4 over -2 minus 1. So that'll be pluses. That'll be 12 over -2 minus 1 is a -3. I can reduce this by doing, or simplify this, I should say. 12 divided by -3 is equal to -4. So I can say that my slope is m equals -4. So now I know what my slope is, but I don't know what the b is again. So I can take either one of these points here, and I'm just going to plug it in. And by plugging it in to this equation here, the slope-intercept equation, I'll have my y, my m, and my x, and then I'll be able to solve for b. So I'm going to use this first point here, and I'm going to have -4 is equal to, my slope is -4 times 1, which is my x, and then plus b. So -4 is equal to -4 plus b. I'm going to add 4 to each side. I'm going to get b is equal to 0. All right? So then my very final answer, since b is equal to 0, y is equal to -4x. You could leave it just like that. If you wanted to add the 0, you'll not get points mixed off. That's your final answer. All right. So this one, I have this point here and this point here. So that's going to be -1, -2, 3, 4, 1. And then this one's going to be 0, -1, -2, -3, -4. Now the interesting thing here is that even though I have those 2 points and I could do everything I just did right here, I could also just look at the graph. So my y-intercept is -1, -2, -3, -4. So b is equal to -4. And then the slope between here and here, it's rise over run, correct? So I'm going to go -1, or -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So it's going to be -5, and then run, which would be positive 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have a slope and I have a b. So I just plug those into the slope-intercept equation, and I'll get y is equal to -5/4 x plus -4 or minus -4, either one. And that's that equation right there. All right, find the rate of change. So when I look at the rate of change, I'm really just looking at these first 2 points right here and finding out what happens between each one. So going from -7 to -3, and then going from -98 to 42. And remember, the rate of change is the y over the x. Just like slope is the change in y is over the change in the x. So if I'm going from 98 to 42, I'm going to be adding a positive number. And with a little tinkering on my calculator, I found out Then I'm going to be adding 56. And then going from -7 to -3 is going to be a +4. Now I can probably reduce that or simplify that. So I'm going to try 56 divided by 4. If I do that, I get 14. And that is your rate of change. Same thing over here. What happens when I go from here to here and here to here? 63 to 35. I'm going to be subtracting, so it's going to be minusing. So that's going to be 28. So going from 63, if I do 63 minus 28, that's going to be giving me 35. Then going from 9 to -5, you're going to be adding 4. So a -28 on the y's and a +4 on the x's. I can probably simplify that. 28 divided by 4 is 7, and we have a negative sign, so it's going to be -7. All right, let's graph these following equations. So the first one's pretty straightforward. I have y equals 3/2x minus 1. So I'm going to look at my y-intercept. It tells me to start at 0, -1. My slope is +3 over +2, so rise over 1 is 1, 2, 3 over 2. 1, 2, 3 over 2. And we can also reverse that, so it'll be down 3 to the left 2. Down 3 to the left 2, and then we can just draw our line. Pretty thick, but that'll work. Don't draw it that thick. Here. Maybe just like that. Put your arrows in, and then you're good to go. 15 looks a little tricky, but remember, you need to get it into slope-intercept form. Sorry. Okay. So what that means is I need to get the y all by itself. So I need to get the y, everything that's not the y, over to the right. And I do this. First, I'm going to subtract 3x. Okay. By doing that, I'm going to have 3y is equal to -3x plus 6. All right. Now I still have this 3 here, so I'm going to divide, because this is multiplying, so I'm going to divide and do the opposite. I'm going to divide everything by 3. And I'm going to write it up here. The 3's cancel here, so y is equal to -1x plus 2. And I've transformed it, or changed it, into an equation I can graph. So from here, I just graph this one, and my slope-intercept is 2, +2. My slope is negative, so it's going to be -1, down 1, and then to the right 1, because that's positive. So just like this. But then we can reverse it, so it'll be positive up 1, and then to the -1. Okay, and then we're just going to draw our line. Put your little arrows, because it continues off the graph, and you're all set. All right, 16. 16 also looks a little tricky. One thing that I realize when I look at this is that this is not in y-intercept form. It is in point-slope form. So when you have point slope form, you can still find a point to start off of, and you can still find the slope. So first thing we need to do is we need to find our m, our slope, and our slope is -3. Okay. Then after that, we need to find where does the point originate from. So that's going to be in an x and a y. I'm sorry, not where does it originate from. What does it pass through? And this is going to be my x. This is going to be my y. So if it's in point slope form, that means if I put it in as the opposite, I need to take it out as the opposite. So I put it in as the opposite of 2. So if I take it out as the opposite of 2, and that's going to be -2. Same thing goes for the y. If I put it in as -1, I take it out as a +1. So my starting point is going to be +1 and then a -2 right there on the graph. And then my slope is going to be -3. Sorry about that. It'd be a -3 over 1. So rise over 1 would tell us that we'd have to go down 3 and to the right 1, because that's +1. Down 3, the right 1, and we can reverse that. Up 3, and then a -1. Up 3 and a -1. Up 3 and a -1. Then you just draw your line through there. Add your arrows, and you're good to go. Moving on, 17, 18, and 19, make sure you're reading the directions. Number 17, we're writing an equation for a line that passes through the given point, and here's the big word, parallel. Parallel means that the slope stays the same. So I look at what's given to me. I have a point and I have an equation. So I need to write an equation in slope-intercept form that passes through this point and is parallel to the line. So I look first at this right here, the equation, and I look at the slope. The slope would be -4/3. Okay? So since the slope is going to be parallel, I leave it the same. I don't have to do anything to it. So now, since I've done that, I am done with this right here. All I need to worry about is this point and this slope. Because when you think about it, my m is -4 or 3. My x is -3. And my y is 4. So now, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. I've got 3 of those 4 things, the y, the m, the x, and the b. Plug them in, find the b, and it was just like we were doing before. So I would have 4 is equal to -3 times -4/3 plus b. And again, if you're having trouble with fractions, just do in your calculator. If you were to do 4 divided by 3, you would get 1.3 repeating, and multiply it by 3, and you would get 4. Okay. The other way you could do it is take this -3, like 3 is over 1, and multiply across. So I would get 4 is equal to -3 times -4 is going to be 12, and then 1 times 3 is going to be 3. Now that's going to reduce, so it's going to be like 4 is equal to 4 plus b. Then from there, we're going to subtract 4 on each side. B is going to be equal to 0. Now, I know you've got a lot written here, but now we can add this. b is equal to 0. So out of all of that, the x and the y don't matter because we're just writing an equation. You'd have y is equal to negative 4/3 x plus 0. Go on to 18. It's going to be in slope-intercept form, just like we did before. So it's got to be y equals mx plus b for a line that passes through the given point and is perpendicular. Perpendicular means we do the opposite and the reciprocal. I'll explain what that means in a second. What we're going to do is, all we're going to worry about is this line first, or this equation first. I'm going to take the slope from that. The slope from that is -5, all right? Once I do that, I'm done with it. I don't need to worry about anything in that equation anymore. So if the slope for that line is -5, and I want to make a line that goes through it or that is perpendicular to it, I need to do the opposite and the reciprocal of it. So the opposite of -5 is 5, right? So that's done. 5 is like saying 5 over 1, because if any number is just over 1. So to make it the reciprocal, I flip it. So I had -5. The opposite reciprocal of that is a positive 1/5. So my m is going to be a positive 1/5. I have this point right here, so I have an x and a y. My x is -5. My y is 3. Just like we're doing before. I'm just going to plug these in so that I can find b. So that'd be 3 is equal to 1/5 times the -5 plus b. So 3 would then equal 1/5 times the -5, so -1 plus b. I'm going to add 1 to each side, and my b is going to be 4. So my slope is still 1/5. I found my slope, I found my y-intercept. So once you find the m and the b, you can just write the equation. So y is going to be equal to 1/5 x plus 4. And that's your equation. All right, this one's point slope form, okay? So point slope form. And it's going to be parallel. Point slope form and parallel. So again, look at this equation first. We find out that the slope is -9. And since it's parallel, I'm not going to do anything to it. It stays the same. So I'm done with this right here. Then I have this point, and I have this slope. So just like it says right here, point slope form, I've got a point and a slope. I can make an equation. So y, and then the opposite y is, or the opposite of 2, or our y is x and y right here. So it'd be -2 because it's the opposite. So y minus 2 is equal to, our slope stays the same, -9. And then x, and then the opposite of x would be a positive 4. And that's your equation. That's your final answer. All right, so now we're doing translations, which is our last section. So if I wanted to go, so in transitions, remember that anything on the outside is up or down. So if I want to go up or down, so positive or negative, that's going to be on the outside. And then if it's on the inside of those absolute value bars, so inside is going to be left or right. But remember, you got to do the opposite. So let's do some here. So if I want to go 3 units down, it's going to be y is equal to x. And then 3 units down, it's going to be on the outside, and going down is a -3. 4 units to the right 4 units, and down 6 units. So to the right is positive, and down is negative. Okay. And then if I want to go left or right, it's got to be on the inside. So it's going to be y is equal to x. And since it's right 4 units, I have to do the opposite of what a positive 4 would be. So I have to do x minus 4. And then if it's down 6 units, I'm going to keep that -6. And then our last, if we're graphing these, remember that we always start here at 0, 0 with the slope of 1/1. And then if we just graph some lines there, and with our little arrows, so that's our starting point. So from there, remember if it's here on the outside, that's going to tell me if I'm going up or down. And then the opposite of what's in here, which would be -3, can tell me if I'm going left or right. So what it's telling me to do is go left 3, and then down 2, because it's -2. So let's do that. Going from our origin point right here, and I'll do this even in a different color. I'm going to go to the left 1, 2, 3, and then down 1, 2. So right here is my transition. So I'm just going to keep these lines. Slope is still 1, 1. And then we would just draw some new lines that go through those points. And make sure you have your little arrows, and that's it. All right, let's go to the next one. Next one tells me, well, first let's start with the original. And then after I draw my lines, we got to figure out where we're going. And from where we are going, it says that, remember, this one is left or right, and then the outside is up or down. Okay? So, and remember, on the inside of these bars, it's got to do the opposite. So it's telling me I need to go to the right 1, because a positive 1 is going to the right, and then up or down, it's telling me that I need to go up 5. So up 5, right 1. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then to the right 1. So that's changed my original to this one right here. Draw the lines, and you're all set. And that is the end. Remember, you can always email me. You can always email Mr. Class. We'll make a video for you. But that is the review. Let me know if I made any mistakes or if you have any questions. Thanks.